What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode here, the Desai Guys Football Forum. I'm one of your co-hosts. I'm Desai, joined as always by my good friend, my good buddy, the other half of Desai Guys, Mr. Tad Desai. And Tad, we're rolling along here with some great draft content. You know, we are in draft month. We are, as of recording, we're recording a little bit later in the week than we usually do as far as our recording schedule. So, but yeah, I think we were under 20 days away from the draft. Like, I mean, it is coming and it is going to be here pretty soon. And it is very exciting stuff.
How dare you make me do math? Let's see. So it's as of recording, it is 16 days away, if I'm not mistaken, but very well could be.
Yeah. Well, like I said, just safe to say that's under 20 days because I think on Thursday it was 3 weeks away, which is 21. And so, yeah, once we get into the weekend here, I think we're,
But you carry the 1 and then divide it by 2. I'm pretty sure I'm right.
It's close enough. But either way, you want to sort of do the math as Tad is sort of doing there. The draft is coming up real close and we sort of want to dive into, we did this last week. We took a look at some teams that did not have first round picks and sort of just a direction they might go as far as how they're going to supplement their roster to be competitive in 2023. But now we're going to do the flip side. So we're going to be looking at the 4 teams currently, the emphasis on currently because, we brought this up before. The Aaron Rodgers trade has not gone through yet. Possibly there's going to be a first round pick involved in there. I'm pretty sure it's going to be this year. So the Jets' number 13 pick, if I remember correctly, maybe going to Green Bay. But as of recording, there are only 4 teams with multiple first round picks, and the Jets are not one of them.
You know what I think might happen here? Because it's really feeling like this isn't going to happen by draft time. I wonder if this is going to be one of those NBA things where like the Jets ask the Packers, like, okay, who do you want? We'll take him. And then like once we get this figured out, then he'll be part of that deal. Like, I wonder if that's
and the draft rights to New York.
Yeah,
exactly. That could be something that could happen. Yeah, that's a very strong possibility.
You get Kobe Bryant, what was it, the Hornets hat situation?
Yeah,
where he's wearing the wrong hat. What a stupid idea. If you know you're going to another team, just wear the right hat.
Well, I guess they have to finalize all the details and all that stuff. So it's like they can't officially say that he's going to be on another team until so I don't know. It's weird. Stupid. It's so confusing, especially when you're watching the NBA draft as far as just like, wait, no, he got drafted by the Hawks, but he's been sent to Milwaukee. And then it's just like, wait.
Yeah, a dude's wearing a Bulls hat and he's just like, I can't wait to be a member of the Kings. And you're like, wait, hold on. What's going on here?
Yeah, exactly. Even the broadcasters get confused too. It's like, okay, so you see him currently wearing a Kings hat, but as we sort of mentioned earlier, he is being traded to the Phoenix Suns. All this stuff, you're just like, wait, what?
Where are you going?
Exactly.
That's why some people ask me for my NBA draft analysis since we do this. I'm like, dude, I don't know.
Yeah, seriously. But yeah, so we could see something like that happen on day 1 of the draft where, Aaron Rodgers goes to New York and then Green Bay just ends up drafting whoever New York wants at 13 sort of thing. So yeah, very well could be in the cards. But yes, as sort of I mentioned already, we are not going to be discussing New York Jets on today's episode. We're only going to be discussing the 4 teams that have multiple first-round picks. So those teams are the Houston Texans, the Seattle Seahawks, the Detroit Lions, and the Philadelphia Eagles of all teams. Like, that's going to be very interesting to see what they do after just recently playing in the Super Bowl. So let's start at the top, though. Let's go with the Houston Texans, who pick at number 2 overall, and then later pick, only 10 picks later, at number 12 overall. So I mean, Tad, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one at number 2.
Just
quarterback. It's like, there's no way to sort of, dice it up any other way. They're 100% going to be drafting a quarterback. Now, the only thing is just, are they going to be able to select Bryce Young or are they going to be able to select CJ Stroud? Because they're pretty much just going to take the leftover of whatever Carolina does at number 1 overall. Now, based off what I'm sort of like hearing and reading through the grapevine here, Tad, it seems like Carolina is leaning towards CJ Stroud. But I mean, we heard this all during the 2021 NFL draft with the Niners and Mac Jones, where everybody's like, oh, it's going to be Mac Jones, it's going to be Mac Jones, it's going to be Mac Jones. And then what happened? They ended up selecting Trey Lance. So this could be very much the same thing.
And that's worked out great.
Yeah. Yeah, for both teams, it's not. Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see.
We'll dive into that in a later episode for sure. Once we get into fantasy content in the summer for sure. But you look at Carolina, maybe they're setting up a smoke screen too, where they're like, yeah, we're very interested in CJ Stroud. And, there's a viral video going around about when Josh McCown and Frank Wright were at CJ Stroud's pro day. And some people were like trying to pick up the audio. I don't know if you remember seeing this video, Tad, but Josh.
I didn't hear about the audio. I just heard about them like stalking him around the field afterwards, that they were like 3 feet behind him the entire time. And people were like,
yeah, but there's a viral video that went around too, like as they were sort of like, oh, thanks for having such a good day. And, appreciate you guys coming out and like good job and all that stuff. And then I think CJ Stroud was like, let's go. I think they were talking about playing pickup basketball or something like that outside. And then Josh McCown's like, oh, no worries. Once you come into Carolina, we'll be able to find some places out there. And so a lot of people were like, oh, did they just leak that they're taking CJ Stroud here? So I don't know. Maybe there's some, kernel of truth into that video.
They could be blowing smoke up his ass too. This could be that's what I said. This could be a draft day Bo Callahan situation. Yeah, we're definitely taking you first overall.
So 100%, like I have no idea what sort of like, smoke and mirrors they're sort of setting up here for, the rest of the draft, the dominoes that will fall after they take a certain quarterback. But yeah, I mean, just getting back to Houston here, like I said, I think they're going to take whichever quarterback is left, whether that's Bryce Young, whether that's CJ Stroud. I think both of these quarterbacks are going to be sort of those franchise-altering type of players that's going to take Houston into a new era with the new head coach as well in DeMeco Ryans. But Tad, I'm going to pose this question to you. Who do you think will fit better in Houston? Like, I mean, obviously they're going to have to take whoever's left over. And I know you probably don't want to answer this question as a Colts fan, but just who do you think would fit better really quickly? Like whether that's Bryce Young or whether that's CJ Stroud in this offense?
The reason I'm reacting so like I'm smiling from ear to ear right now for our listeners is because we did not discuss this beforehand, but that is the exact same approach I took to this pick. So it's like, it's going to be a quarterback. I'm like, so you know what's the more interesting conversation? Who fits better in the system? So I actually have the perfect notes for that. It's Bryce Young 100%, because I did not know this until I started doing research for this episode, but the Houston Texans' new offensive coordinator is the former 49ers passing coordinator.
Bobby Slowick, correct.
Yeah, so of course that makes sense with DeMeco Ryans, that connection, of course. But it got me thinking of like, okay, what does it take to succeed in the 49ers or the Shanahan type style offense? And then it got me thinking, well, why did Brock Purdy do so well in the 49ers offense? And I remember, maybe you can correct me on this, but from everything I saw, it seemed that Purdy understood the flow of the offense. He understood, I can't, you know what? If I make a decision, I got to make it right now. And he pulls the trigger. What happens, happens. Trust in the system, right? Well, one of my biggest knocks on CJ Stroud is he tends to second guess himself. Not often, but often enough where it's noticeable. He tends to second guess himself in the pocket. It's, again, it looks like a pump fake, but it's not a pump fake. It's not a deliberate attempt to redirect the defensive back. It's him going, oh, no, that route might not be as good. And then like the pocket starts collapsing on him. That's when his running ability comes in. So he can deal with it well, but he still has that hesitation. So I think Bryce Young has that flow, has that confidence, has the, pass first mindset. Not saying that Stroud doesn't have a pass first mindset. I just think Young has a better one. So I think Young is the better fit for like, just again, an offense that runs so heavily on the flow and just the tempo. I think that Young is the guy that is better suited to pull that off.
No, I think you bring up a good point. I think either quarterback, I think, is going to fit well. But yeah, I think you look at the characteristics that Bryce Young displays as far as his quarterback makeup. I think just looking at what the Niners have done, the Rams have done, Miami to an extent, Green Bay, obviously with Matt LaFleur, those types of systems, I think, could probably better suit Bryce Young's skill set as far as being a quarterback in that type of offense. But I don't doubt that CJ Stroud, if he were to be taken by Houston after Bryce Young goes
They're
to
both
Carolina
good.
at number
They're both
one,
good.
they're easily going to be able to coach up those small things as far as like making the decision faster, like you said, where it's like he doesn't have to hesitate. They're going to find the open receivers for him to sort of make his decisions quickly. So, but yeah, I think I agree with you that between the two, if they had the choice, like if hypothetically, if they were number one, which, maybe could be in the cards, we'll see. Who knows? Draft day is going to be very interesting for sure. So maybe they decide to go to number one and they decide that they want one of those two quarterbacks. Maybe Bryce Young fits just a little bit better. So, like I said, number 2 overall pick, not much excitement there. We know what's going to happen there to number 2 for Houston, right? Let's get to number 12. This is where it's going to get a little bit more interesting. They got this pick, obviously, via the Cleveland Browns, because of the Deshaun Watson trade. So, I mean, like I said, with them going quarterback with the number 2 overall pick, they definitely need to now. They could go in a multitude of directions. Like they can address the defense with the pass rush, defensive line, cornerback too. Like, if they want to get some more depth there. Offensive line, obviously, we talked about with Houston. Like, that's usually a big problem for them. But I think what they're going to do here, Tad, is that I think they're going to pair up their quarterback with a dynamic receiver. And so I think they definitely need to supplement their receiver group because they have average receiver group right now. They have, as their current starting wide receivers for them is Robert Woods. Not bad. Veteran receiver, could be dependable.
Getting up there, though.
Yep, that's the big one there. Nico Collins, he's flashed at times, but he's nowhere near like a consistent guy you can depend on in that offense. They just recently drafted him, John Mechie III. He had some injuries, obviously, so they're hoping
you liked him, didn't you?
I thought he could show some flash. Obviously, he's a speed, he's a burner, obviously, for them. So, you got to make sure you got enough time to get the ball to him. So we'll see how he develops into his next couple of years here. And then they got Noah Brown, who they signed from the Dallas Cowboys. So, like I said, they got not bad receivers, but 100% they can upgrade this receiver position. So especially when you're picky at number 12 now, like we talked about this, where most likely we should see at least 3 quarterbacks going in the top 10. That's going to push every other position a lot lower. We're going to see some defensive pieces go in the top 10 as well with like Christian Gonzalez and Will Anderson, obviously. Probably see some of the offensive linemen with Skoronski, possibly Paris Johnson Jr. as well. So this is going to slide the receivers down a little bit further. So honestly, Houston can have their pick of who they want at the receiver position at number 12. And I know you would hate it to see Quentin Johnston go here. It's a possibility. It's a possibility. I'm not saying they will go. I think they want to go with a more polished, complete receiver that can start day one. I'm not saying Quentin Johnston can't, but I think we talked about this in a wide receiver rankings episode. I think the biggest thing with Quentin Johnston is you're drafting him because of the potential that he can be one of the best in the league. Whereas like from day one, like he'll be good for you, but there's a lot of things he needs to work on. Whereas the pick here that I'm thinking, Jackson Smith-Njigba, I think he's more of a guy that's a little bit more overall, a lot complete. We saw this with Chris Olave last year, as well as Garrett Wilson, that they came in. They were producers from the get-go. So I think Houston needs that type of receiver that from day one, they can pair him up with the rookie quarterback, and they'll be ready to go sort of thing. So he'll be able to learn from Robert Woods as well. So I like Jackson Smith-Njigba here, number 12, to pair up with a young quarterback. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think if he's there, Njigba will be the pick. I know I'm saying it wrong. Amir says it correctly, but I'm going to keep saying it the way I say it. Quinn Johnson, like you said, is also a possibility because I was laughing earlier when you said, like, they can coach up these guys, Stroud to throw these open receivers. Who's not great at getting open is Nico Collins. So you really can't go into the rookie season of your franchise quarterback with him as your number 2 receiver. So
agreed.
I think it will be receiver. If they don't, it should be pass rush. They need a lot of help at either the defensive end and the edge rushing. So I think Luke Van Ness is a possibility. Nolan Smith,
great pick. Yep.
If he starts slipping, that's a possibility. Now, how about this for a dark horse candidate? If he's there, and he could be, and this is a player I've seen as high as like 6 and as low as like 22. Christian Gonzalez. I would not be like overly shocked if they took him because, as you can attest to, Amir, and as D'Amico Ryans can attest to as well from his time in San Francisco, you can never have too many defensive backs. So I think if Gonzalez is as good as I think he'll be, and again, this pains me to say, he and Stingley together could be like the best cornerback duo in the league by year 2. Like bar none, like those two together would be shut down. And so that'd be an interesting kind of defensive way to go. It's going to be interesting. I'm not sure how much control D'Amico Ryan has over the personnel decisions, and those defensive guys love going defense, even if there is a need on offense. So wouldn't shock me if they go edge rusher at corner here either.
Yeah, because we've talked about this before too, where it's like where a new head coach comes into their situation, they usually try to address what they're good at, right? Because we see this with Chicago and Matt Eberflus, where it's like, okay, do I want to start working on the offense or do I want to start working on the defense, which I'm more experienced in? So we saw him like clear out a lot of players, draft guys they wanted. We saw in this offseason, they signed Tremaine Edmonds, excuse me, not Terrell, and also TJ Edwards. He's like, I want to beef up this defense because I think that can be a lot closer to being more closer to being a very good unit as opposed to the offense, where I think we still need a lot of work to do. So you can build up one side to be very strong and then work on the other side, like as you go along. That's sort of what coaches sort of employ there. So yeah, I could very much see DeMeco Ryans going with the defensive pick, whether that's cornerback, defensive line, edge rush, maybe a linebacker too. I think it might be a little bit too high for linebacker here at number 12, but yeah, 100%. Like if Christian Gonzalez is there, like that's an excellent pick for sure. But I see him going in the top 10. I don't think he'll be available here, but yeah, if he's there, 100% run that pick in, like for sure. No. Don't wait for the clock to clock out or whatever. Like go rush it in. So that's sort of a couple directions the Houston Texans could go in. But let's move on to the next team here. So they're picking at number 5 overall, if I remember correctly, and that is the Seattle Seahawks. I'll pass it over to you here, Ted.
So at number 5, I think they're going to stay put, and let me tell you why. Let me just read off some stats for you, Amir. So they're extraordinary. They, being the Seahawks, are extraordinarily consistent, but the problem is they are consistently bad. So let me tell you what I mean by that. They finished third to last in all the following categories. They pressure percentage, so how often they got to the quarterback. They finished 22nd in sacks. They finished third to last in passing yards allowed, and third to last in rushing yards allowed per attempt. So this is going to be a defensive lineman taken here. I don't know who. So let's defensive lineman, edge rusher of some type. So they also finished, no single player had more than 36 quarterback pressures, right? So I think it's going to be an edge rusher like Tyree Wilson. Maybe this would be a shock, but maybe Nolan Smith comes here since he had such a great combine.
It might be a little bit high, but it's a possibility.
But I mean, the Seahawks this would be the exact same thing. I'm trying to remember the year where they took Bruce Irvin in like round 15 when people had him ranked as a second or third rounder. So like the Seahawks are known for drafting, and I'm if I'm not mistaken, I believe that was the same front office as well. So this front office, and this is the same front office. I know this for a fact. This is the same front office that took Rashad Penny when people again had him ranked as a third or fourth round pick. So this front office is not opposed to reaching for players. Another interesting name to bring up is Jalen Carter. I think this is where 100%. The Jalen Carter chatter starts. Is does he go top 10? Because I don't know if you've seen this. His agent and himself, obviously, they're not talking to anyone outside the top 10. They're like declining visits, and they're just like, no, we're going top 10, which is interesting strategy. I'm not sure if that's it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off. But so it's definitely gonna be some defensive linemen. Obviously if Will Anderson somehow falls as best case scenario for Seattle, like you said, like don't spend the 5 minutes wasting time. Like if Will Anderson is there, I think that card's gonna be in by the 4:55 mark. Like there's no way that they will hesitate on that. But I think the best option for them to go is Tyree Wilson. He's a highly developmental candidate, needs a lot of work, but all the physical skills are there. And the more I watch him, the more I like him, because earlier on in the draft season, I was a little, harsh on him. But the more I watch him, the more I'm like, okay, there's enough there to work with to justify him going back end of the top 5. But this is back when people are like, could go number 3. It's like, no, stop that. I know people are like, oh, it's just difference 2 picks, but it's a big difference. The dark horse candidate that would not surprise me here, Peter Skoronski.
They actually have a somewhat decent offensive line.
They do.
I don't think they'd reach for an offensive tackle / guard here. But okay, I want to hear your reasoning on this one.
So they do, but I will give you $5 right here. Name the Seahawks right tackle.
It's not Charles Cross, right?
No, he plays left.
Okay, yeah,
which is also a point I'm going to bring up soon. Okay. It's Abraham Lucas. So that is my point.
State, right?
I don't know.
Okay. So you had that. Okay.
I saw the name and I looked up his stats. I was like, okay.
Okay.
He's not bad. He's not bad at all. But you're totally right. That offensive line as a whole is actually pretty well set up, but that is a one kind of weak point there. And so I think that with Skronsky, and he's a guy that I've very much fallen in love with the more I watch him. I think he does have the ability to be a tackle at the next level. I'm no longer buying into the switch at guard being necessary. Um, but I'm so glad you brought Charles Cross up because that's why I like this pick so much because you can keep Cross at the left tackle and play your number 5 overall pick at right tackle, a position with far less pressure, so that he can develop without as much attention being put on him. So I agree they have more pressing needs, but it's one of those things that like honestly that would kind of complete your offensive line, and then you don't really need to worry about it for the next 2 or 3 years. And that's a nice luxury.
I do agree with that, but like I said, I think they have bigger issues that they need to address on their team compared to offensive line. So especially when they're picking at number 5 overall, I think there's a lot of other stronger players at other positions that I think could bring more value to the team compared to a Peter Skronsky, who I love as well. Like, I mean, he is easily one of the best offensive linemen overall in this year's draft class. But just, yeah, I think they could probably go in a different direction. So yeah, I 100% like Tyree Wilson. It wouldn't surprise me if they go with Jalen Carter. They definitely need to beef up that defensive line, defensive tackle specifically as well, because they just released, well, not just, but they released Shelby Harris in the offseason, who was part of that trade with Russell Wilson. A lot of people thought that was going to be a big contributor for Seattle, but it just never panned out. So they ended up releasing him. So yeah, I could see them going more with the defensive line / pass rush pick here, as opposed to probably offensive line. But yeah, like you said, it's a dark horse candidate. So I mean, it's a very possibility could be out there, and you laid out good reasoning. But yeah, I think I'm going to side with defense here for Seattle at number 5.
All right, so let's talk about Seattle's next pick at number 20. I don't know. It's a crapshoot. This was so tough. I was like, they could go 1,000 different ways here.
Yeah,
so.
that's the thing. Yeah, once you get later in the draft, especially when you have multiple first round picks, it's really based off what you do with that first pick that you have in the first round, and then just where you're going to go with that next one. So I'm pretty sure you figured out some sort of game plan here. So what do you think they'll do here at 20?
Corner is a possibility. Christian Gonzalez, if he takes a tumble, would be an excellent pick there. Because again, I've been looking at mock drafts all over the place. Some people I know don't put like actually, draft stock is not actually representative of mock drafts. This is just what a bunch of experts think. And I say that with respect because you and I are also experts.
Exactly.
But it just seems like, because these guys do have contacts. Well, some of them do have contacts, and like those trusted mock drafts. I've seen some have the Falcons take him at 8 and others have him slipping like all the way to Baltimore at 22, 23 or whatever. And I don't know where this kid's going to go. He should go top 10. I'm not so sure he's going to. So if he takes a slip, Gonzalez is there. More realistically, Joey Porter Jr. might be there at number 20. Would be a bad pick. Michael Mayer, Dalton Kincaid, if either one of them takes a tumble, they need a tight end. I'll get in that in a bit. And Kalijah Cansey is a player that's been rising up draft boards recently, the defensive tackle at Pittsburgh. He is undersized. He is raw, but ooh, man, is that athleticism there. Kind of reminding you of another former Pitt defensive tackle. Not that I'm making that comparison, but I'm not making it yet. I'm comparing their stories, not their outlook.
Okay. All right.
It's the journey to this point, Amir. It's called, development. Shut up.
All right.
Anyway. So I know some people may be going, whoa. Why are you saying Michael Mayer, Dalton Kincaid? They just got Noah Fant. Now, this shocked me when I looked it up, Amir. Noah Fant in his entire career has never had more than 700 yards or 5 touchdowns in any of his seasons. And you can't blame it on injuries because he's played a majority of those seasons in every single one.
No, it's true. It's very
That's
true.
Crazy.
I thought he was going to break out in Denver because he looked like there's a flash towards the end of it. I think it's his rookie season where they brought in God, what the Drew Lock. That's quarterback I was thinking. They brought in Drew Lock.
They've gone through like 8 in the past 3 years.
I know.
You're excused for not knowing.
But they brought in Drew Lock, and he looked to Noah Fant a lot, his direction a lot, and he was racking up some stats. And you thought finally this is like, okay, he's learning, because tight end's one of those positions that transitions a little bit slower compared to other positions when you're making the jump from the college level to the NFL level. So I was like, okay, maybe it's just taking him a little bit longer. Then you saw it towards the end of the season. Okay, now he's starting to realize his potential, but just like you said, said, I think it never materialized in Denver. Obviously, they trade him to Seattle. Seattle's a very a team that likes to utilize the tight end position. Like, I mean, we've heard so many names in the past before that have broke out in Seattle. And so it's like you thought you'd see that here, but maybe just adjusting to the new offense just hasn't seen it yet. So I can understand why you'd want to make an upgrade here. But like I said, maybe I'm just holding out. Maybe I'm just a little too optimistic in what I saw in Noah Fant, that maybe I could potentially see him here in year 2 in Seattle now, that maybe they'll utilize him a lot more. But I also want to throw in the fact here, Ted, before I get your reaction here, is just they also still have Will Dissly, who they've used pretty well in the tight end position as well. So it's like, I don't know if they need to upgrade a tight end here at the number 20 spot. But yeah, your thoughts here as to why you think they'd go tight end, though.
I love your last note on Noah Fant, because the very next line of my notes is, we need to stop sitting on this potential. Like, maybe he'll break out. I was like, we need to stop playing this game, because I felt for it last year of like, he's still developing and stuff. No, trust broken. I don't trust him anymore. Move on from Noah Fant. Now, Will Dissly, sure, he's a good tight end, but I'm talking Michael Mayer, Dalton Kincaid, or hell, maybe even Darnell Washington. This is like a true number 1 starting tight end for your future. So like, how consistent has Will Dissly been? I mean, you and I both know this as fantasy guys. You do not trust a Seahawk tight end, because they will blow up for about 2 or 3 weeks and then they won't do shit for the rest of the season. So fair. Like, this is finally the consistency you can get at the position as Seattle. Because yeah, you're right. I like Will Dissly as a number 2 tight end. I don't like him as your go-to starter. I don't think he has that ability or that consistency, health-wise or production-wise. But other, positions, like I said, Tariq Woolen, I believe I'm pronouncing that right. Mm-hmm. Excellent find. He got definitely at least one. I think he got 2 or 3 votes for Defensive Rookie of the Year as a 3rd round pick. Mm-hmm. So like, that was a great find. They need to find other secondary help, which brings me to my dark horse candidate. This shocked me. Ready? What if they went for, I don't think he'll be here for this, but what if they went Devon Witherspoon? If he slips, partially because he has that corner safety hybrid that would be really valuable for reasons I'm about to speak to in a second. And now on the more realistic side for a dark horse candidate, Brian Branch, the safety out of Alabama. Now, I know what people are saying. Why in the world would they go safety with Jamal Adams? A couple of reasons. One, they literally have no safety behind Jamal Adams right now. Brian Adams. Why did I just turn him into Canadian
Adams, singer? You freak up singers now.
Well, you know what? Right now, Seattle would bring Brian Adams into the building to back up Jamal Adams, because they got no one. Yeah, and way Jamal Adams plays, you need a good, reliable backup, because he just plays way too aggressive. He's kind of like the modern day Bob Sanders. Like, he plays so aggressively, you can just guarantee he's going to miss a couple of games. So you need a good backup. And also, let's not lie, Jamal Adams has not lived up to expectations in Seattle. And so, yes, his contract is massive. Starting next offseason, there's a potential out every offseason going forward where they can save anywhere from $15 to $25 million. I looked into it. I was like, I can describe this on a podcast. It'll take about 25 minutes, but I can explain it. So let me just tell you, depending on when, in terms of the month and the year they release him, $15 to $25 million savings starting next offseason. So if he fails to meet expectations again, the Seahawks, all that draft capital they trade away for him, that's already been spent. So it's not like it's that bad a PR of like, okay, it didn't work out and we're still suffering. It's like, all right, it didn't work out and they can move on. So if they, I don't know the confidence in Jamal Adams in that building, but if they aren't, this could be a good spot to kind of nab his potential future successor.
It's a possibility. I think safety is a little bit high here to go at the number 20 pick. Like,
that's why I like the Witherspoon
pick. I don't think the safety's going to go in the 1st round, to be honest with you.
I think one of them will. It won't be till the 20s.
One's going to slip in?
Yeah, one's going to slip in. But that's why I like the Witherspoon pick, because he could fill in for corner. And so he fills that need. And then when Jamal Adams goes down, it's like, okay, Witherspoon, get back there. And you're like, all right. So it's like, if one of those corner safety hybrids falls to them, I think that's good. But I think 20 is a little too high, or a little too low, high. Why do I always do this?
Yeah.
It's just whatever. I think Witherspoon will be gone by 20.
I think so too. I think he's easily going to go in the top 15. I think he has that type of talent that some team is going to recognize that
he's
for sure.
He's going to be a Patriot. God damn it.
So I don't think he'll be available at number 20. But I mean, there's lots of other great corners that could be available at 20 that can sort of play that sort of hybrid role. Where you got Cam Smith out of South Carolina, you got Clark Phillips III out of Utah, you
Deontay
got
Banks.
Deontay Banks out of Maryland. I was just about to bring up him. So Emmanuel Forbes out of Mississippi State. So if they want to go in that direction, there's a lot of great corners that can go at 20. If Devin Witherspoon is there, like fantastic find there, definitely you pick him. But I think like we are in agreement here. I think he's easily going to go in the top 15, possibly the top 10 too, like based on who you like better between Christian Gonzalez and Devin Witherspoon. So I don't know if he's going to be there at 20, but like I said, I'm not so high on tight end in the first round for them. I don't think they'll go in that direction. I think they'll probably at number 20, they could very much address the interior offensive line, or maybe Osiris Torrance could go here.
But I don't think, I almost said that, but I don't think Torrance is going to be there either.
Okay, it's a possibility, but I think if he is there, then I think that's a better pick. I think they can obviously address the pass rush. I think there's a lot of great talent that they could find here. I like the Kalijah Cansey pick. I think that would be an excellent addition to their defensive tackle, especially if they don't decide to draft Jalen Carter at number 5.
Take your edge.
Cansey at number 20 is fantastic. Yeah, I think that would be fantastic for sure. So, all right, so a couple different directions Seattle can go. So let's get to the next pick here. That is the Detroit Lions. They're picking at number 6 overall, and then again at number 18 overall, if I remember correctly. But I'll pass to you here, Tad, for the analysis.
Yeah, why did you give me all the teams where it's like, I don't know, they could go 1,000 different directions? Like, this is so hard.
Well, you wanted Detroit because that's your dad's team, right?
I didn't realize Seattle was also going to be as difficult. I thought Seattle was going to be the easy one. But yeah, number 6 is that's where the fun, it's Anakin Skywalker. This is where the fun begins, because it's like at number 5, like we said, we're fairly certain that Seattle's going to go D-line edge rusher there. Obviously, top 4 is going to be a cluster of quarterbacks plus Will Anderson somewhere. And so this is truly where it's like, who are they going to take? I don't know. So they could go corner, although they've done a lot of moves. Them being the Lions have made a lot of moves to shore up their secondary this offseason. A pretty good way. It's still not great at the corner position, but man, that CJ Gardner-Johnson signing may be my favorite of the offseason. Like getting a player that good on such a cheap contract. Woo! Great signing by them. So maybe they keep it up. Maybe they go corner. This would be where Devon Witherspoon or Christian Gonzalez go. Those are pretty universally regarded as the top 2 corners. Any other corner going first would be a massive shock. I don't even know what to compare that to. They could go, tight ends. They trade away TJ Hawkinson. Yes, this would be a little early. This is actually why if I were the Lions, what I would do, trade out of this number 6 pick. Will Levis or Anthony Richardson, one of them is going to fall. And hopefully you get a team that wants to get up to number 6 to make sure they don't fall any further. And so, I mean, maybe it's Baltimore. Maybe it's, there's some team that's, maybe it's Minnesota. I heard Minnesota is falling in love with Will Levis, apparently. So maybe one of them trade up. But I think what Detroit should do is trade back, not too far, but trade back into the teens and then take a tight end. So that, if I were them, that would be my main focus. They could also go quarterback. I don't think they will, but if they really, really love a guy, Jared Goff isn't, he's almost 30 at this point. We know he can bring a team to the Super Bowl, but can he bring them all the way? I'm not so sure. So if they want to draft a guy to kind of groom behind him, that's a possibility. And then, of course, defensive tackle. Jalen Carter sweepstakes continued. This could be another spot where I could see him going to. I know it's a different front office, but we know this franchise taking Nick Fairley. Why am I turning Chris Farley, Nick Fairley, whatever?
There's an I.
I'm in a very pop culture mindset right now. It's weird.
Seriously. Playing too much framed, I think that's the problem.
That's exactly what it is. It's funny you should say that, because that's what I was looking at before the show. But yeah, Nick Fairley is a perfect example. If you can take a troubled defensive tackle, and hopefully if you get him in line a little bit, he should be okay. Now, Sheldon Rankins with the Jets is a perfect example of how that could go opposite. But I think Dan Campbell's the type of I can get this guy in order. So Jalen Carter is a very real possibility here. Michael Mayer, obviously, Christian Gonzalez, Devin Witherspoon, all those guys. I've seen edge rush. I think all the best edge rushers will be gone at this point. I think this is too early for Luke Van Ness. I think this is too early for Nolan Smith, although I could also see Dan Campbell fall in love with him. So I think that, there's a lot to love here, but I think that if they really, really wanted to go with a good player that would benefit them right away, if he's there, if the Seahawks pass on him, take Tyree Wilson. Because imagine if Tyree Wilson lives up to that promise, and pair that with Aiden Hutchinson. Now you have kind of like what I was talking about with Houston and Derek Stingley and Christian Gonzalez. Now you have a best duo for years to come between Hutchinson and Wilson on the cheap. And there are 3 keys that you need to be a successful team. You need a quarterback, you need to protect the quarterback, and you need to be able to get to the quarterback. So if you knock one of those out with 2 players on a cheap contract for the next 3 or 4 years, that's going to open up so much other room to improve your roster. So if Tyree Wilson is still there, he's my pick, even over Jalen Carter.
No, I think that's a pretty good pick for sure. They definitely need to add more to Aiden Hutchinson and that pass rush overall. Like, I mean, it's great that they have Aiden Hutchinson. I think he's going to be a great piece for them for a long time. They have Julian Aquara, who's a great pass rusher as well for them. Alex Anzalone was pretty good coming from the middle linebacker position.
That's why I think it's not like a screaming. People act like it's a screaming need for them, but like it's not. I mean, we always say you can't have too many pass rushers, but I mean, it's just one of those things where if the guy isn't there, don't reach for one.
Yeah, because I mean, you look at Philly from last year, right? Where it's like they had all these great pieces on their pass rush, and then obviously they get to the Super Bowl, and some of that gets picked off by other teams in the NFL during free agency. But because they had good depth, because they kept drafting at a position, they're okay right now. So it's like you look at Detroit, they're in a good spot. I definitely think they can add, but yeah, if Tyree Wilson's there, that's a great pick. I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to go with Myles Murphy. I think out of Clemson, he'd be a really good addition here too.
About that, yeah.
That's not a bad addition if they want to go pass rush specifically. 100% like we talked about, like this is a possibility where Jalen Carter could possibly be available. He'd be a great addition on that defensive tackle line for sure. But I think they go corner. Like, I mean, they made some good additions. They got Cam Sutton, who they signed as a corner position, a very underrated sign. I think he's going to pay a lot of dividends for them in the secondary. Obviously, you brought up CJ Gardner-Johnson. I think that's a great piece in the safety level. But I think you need to sort of continue to address that because you play in the NFC North, who has a lot of great pass catchers in Justin Jefferson and no longer Devontae Adams, but Green Bay with Christian Watson is a great piece there. Obviously, DJ Moore's in Chicago now, so it's like there's a lot of great.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So there's surprisingly NFC North is becoming a little bit more pass heavy now too, especially if you look at Minnesota's very pass heavy.
You're forgetting Jalen Reagor in Minnesota. Put some respect on his name.
Fine. KJ Osborne
I
in Minnesota.
I don't even know if he's still on Minnesota's roster.
No, he is. DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney. Like, I mean, there's a lot of great pass catchers in the NFC North now. So you definitely need to make sure you're counteracting that with good defensive backs. So I think this is a very good spot. I think I brought this up before. Devin Witherspoon would be a great pick here for Dan Campbell. Fits that mentality. He's a tackler as well because, NFC North has some good running backs as well. So, I mean, he could play good in the coverage. He could play good in the run stopping as well. So I like Devin Witherspoon at number 6 to go to Detroit. But, I mean, yeah, pass rush, if that's available, that's not a bad addition as well. And of course, like we talked about, if Jalen Carter's there, excellent pick to add up to bolster that defensive line for Detroit there. So let's close this out with the last team that we have here with multiple first-round picks.
Whoa. We didn't talk 18.
Oh, I thought you started combining it because you were talking like tight end and all this stuff.
It's going to be short. It's going to be short.
Okay, all right. Let's get to number 18. My bad.
Just because my dark horse is my hottest take of this episode, so we got to get to that.
Let's hear it. So number 18. Let's go for it.
All right, so number 18, all the same shit, like tight end, defensive line, corner, whatever's there. Basically, they should sit there and just be like, take best player available.
Yeah, that's good. That's
because
good
if Chance Darnold's going to fill a need. Now, this is where I think they should target Myles Murphy because I think Myles Murphy is going to take a little bit of a tumble that people aren't expecting. Brian Brees is another possibility. Mm-hmm. Cansey, who we talked about, the defensive tackle at Pitt. That a little early for him, but if you like him, go for him. Now, if I'm saying, here's the hot take. If I'm saying a little early, how about this? At number 18, my dark horse candidates for the Detroit Lions are Jack Campbell or Drew Sanders.
Yeah, I think linebackers. I don't know if I'm going to see a linebacker.
Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Yes, this would be too early for them. But behind Alex, and I don't know why he keeps popping up on this goddamn podcast because he knows I can't say his name. Anzalone.
I think it helped because I said it earlier. Maybe it's
it absolutely did. I was very glad you did that. Yeah. Thank you. And behind him and Malcolm Rodriguez, currently slated as their 2 starting middle linebackers. Do you know who they have behind them? Nada. Zilch, none. They got nothing. So, and plus, let's be real. Like, those guys are good, but they're not blowing anyway. Malcolm Rodriguez is young. I understand. He still has time to develop. Anzalone is like, I'm not going to say he's past his prime, but like, it wouldn't hurt to look for an upgrade over him. So don't be surprised, especially Jack Campbell. I really like Jack Campbell. So I would not be shocked if they took a linebacker just to shore up that, position, especially again, like we said, these coaches lean on what they know well. And it's just, we need linebackers to be aggressive. And there's anything the dude who bites knees likes, it's aggressiveness. So I would not be shocked if this is where the linebacker comes off the board. Cause I agree. Otherwise, I don't think there's a linebacker off the board in the first round.
It's a very possibility, and I think I do like the qualifier dark horse candidate because I don't see it happening, but it very well could. There's definitely a need there, but I think when they pick again, Tad, I don't know if you have it handy, but where they pick in the second round.
I do not, but I do know because I was like, shit. They do have 2 second-round picks, which does help.
Yeah. See, so I think they could possibly address the linebacker position with one of those second-round picks then, because I think all these linebackers are going to be available in the second round. You look like you already mentioned Jack Campbell will probably be there. Drew Sanders, Trenton Simpson out of Clemson. I think all those guys look pretty good from what I saw, that any of those guys can sort of fill that need that they have in the second round as opposed to taking them in the first round, number 18. I 100% like the idea of tight end going here. Like, this is the perfect spot for a tight end to go. If Michael Mayer's there, that's a, run up as fast as you can sort of pick there. Yeah. If perchance he's gone, like Dalton Kincaid, they can use another pass catcher. He'd be an excellent fit here. Maybe Darnell Washington, possibly, as you need more of a blocker, especially if they like to run first too. So any of those 3 tight ends, if they're available there at 18, like I could see them sort of going in that direction to beef up their passing offense and also supplement their run blocking as well to help with the running game, because they have DeAndre Swift and David Montgomery now. So I can see where it's a dark horse, but like I said, with them, like you said, saying they have 2 second round picks, I think they go linebacker possibly one of those picks as opposed to the first round.
So a couple things real quick. First off, fuck the Miami Dolphins, because I'm already bad enough at math, but now I need to do all the math where I'm like, okay, pick 48. That's usually like this pick, but because like pick 32 is now the first pick of the second round, it's like, I don't know. So either way, the Lions pick at 48 and 55. Where that is in the second round, you figure it out.
Somewhere in the middle there,
I'm not your maid. You figure it out.
Somewhere in the middle there. But I think that's a very good spot to see some of those linebackers go off there. And Detroit wouldn't surprise me if they decide to go in that direction for sure. So, but tight end at 18, I think that's like a match made in heaven. I think they're probably going to do that, but we'll see. We'll see. So let's now get to the last team here. Now that we finished number 18 with Detroit, let's get to the Philadelphia Eagles to sort of close out our episode here. So they, like we talked about, they were just in the Super Bowl, and now they're going to be picking at the number 10 spot, thanks to a trade with the New Orleans Saints. So they're going to be picking to closing out the top 10 of the upcoming draft here. So, I mean, like we talked about, they were just in the Super Bowl. Their roster sort of got picked clean a little bit. Tad, they lost 6 starters from both sides of the ball from their Super Bowl starting roster. So, I mean, like, they lost some key contributors to their offense as well as their defense. I think their offense has stayed intact for the most part. I think they can work with what they have. They don't lose too many big pieces. So I think they address defense with the number 10 pick here. Once again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but I mean, if Jalen Carter slips to number 10, I mean,
that's not
Can
bad.
you imagine, Tad? Like, they pair up Jalen Carter with his former teammate at Georgia with Jordan Davis. Like, can you imagine that defensive
Fletcher
line?
Cox is still there too.
And Fletcher is still there that they're going to learn from. Like, I mean, that's just so dirty. Like, it's just unfair for the rest of the division. And of course, whichever teams they play. Like, I mean, that's just, and then obviously they got Nakobe Dean, who they didn't play much in his rookie year, so he's going to step up in the linebacker position. He's my God,
pick for breakout player. He's my pick for breakout player.
Nakobe Dean is going to look really good. So I was like, if you got that triangle right there with the defensive tackles and then Nakobe Dean, like, oh my God, they're going to be fine on defense. So if he's there, like 100%, they need to take him. Like, I mean, he's going to be such a difference maker from his rookie year. But like I said, there's no guarantee that he'll be there. He's going to go somewhere in that top 10 based on what we're hearing here. But I think if he's gone, I think they addressed the secondary where I talked about CJ Gardner-Johnson leaving to sign with Detroit. I know they were able to re-sign Darius Slay as well as James Bradbury, but they're getting up there. Like, they're not going to play forever. So it's like, maybe they'll decide to test free agency next year. Cause I think Bradbury only signed a 1-year deal, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, he may decide to leave in the offseason. Darius Slay, I think he signed a 2-year deal. So, I mean, he's sticking around just a little bit longer, but clearly, like, I mean, there's a little bit of a question mark whether those guys were going to come back. So, I mean, once it comes free agency, like either next year or the season after, like, there's no guarantee that they're going to keep those guys. So I think you definitely need to upgrade the secondary here. I think they go with the corner position. So if he's available, I like Devin Devin Witherspoon, like I said, because I like his run stopping ability better than other corners in this draft class. If he's available, like I said, I like him in Detroit at number 6. So if Christian Gonzalez is here as number 10, I think he's a great consolation prize. Like, I mean, if you're talking about Christian Gonzalez as a consolation prize for your draft board, like that's an excellent consolation prize. Like, I mean, he's got the height, he's got the speed, he's got the coverage skills. He's going to slot in really nicely in the secondary, run by an honorary Desai guy, Sean Desai. So I mean, he's going to be able to get the
no. He lost his title of honorary. No, and he knows why.
It's not his fault. It's not his fault. But 100%, I think he's going to slot in nicely. He's going to be utilized the proper way that I think Philadelphia will be able to use him. So I like secondary here at number 10, Tad. But what do you think as far as like those picks here? Do you think they go in a different direction at number 10 overall?
I've got 5 letters for you, my friend. DBPA. That's only 4. Damn it. Shit. This is why why is math so hard? Math is stupid. Anyway, defensive best player available. I don't care what position it is. I could care less if you think it's a middle linebacker. Take a middle linebacker, because clearly Philadelphia has success when their defense is just, as you mentioned, so deep and so fully loaded. And as another important thing you mentioned, the average age of not just the secondary, but the defensive line is getting up there too, with Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox. They need to start getting a little younger. They're kind of splitting it, like you said, with Jordan Davis and Josh Sweat now. You know, you have young pieces, but you need more. So I think whatever edge rusher takes a tumble, whatever corner takes a tumble, someone's going to take a tumble. It happens every single year. That's who you go with. So I think that should be their strategies. Whoever is the best defensive player on the board, take them. My dark horse candidate is Paris Johnson. Lane Johnson isn't getting Lane Johnson's not getting any older. Jordan, I'm going to try this. I apologize in advance. Jordan Mailata?
Yeah, you got that one right.
Oh, look, I'm an effort upset. Can't count, but now apparently I can pronounce. His cap hit skyrockets, I believe, starting next season. So, like, he could be a very easy cap casualty next offseason. So, finding someone to kind of grow behind him so you can cut him next offseason, save yourself, I believe, about $20 million, if I saw that correctly. Not a terrible pick. I think the weight on offensive line, but if you really love Paris Johnson or if Skoronski takes a tumble, not a terrible pick either.
Yeah, I did see offensive line as a need depending on who's available there, whether it's Skoronski or whether it's Paris Johnson Jr. I could definitely see them being added as a depth piece. And then, like you said, when Lane Johnson finally decides to retire, Jason Kelce, obviously, maybe they decide to swing on.
I almost had Torrance there, but
like something like that's like.
I almost picked Torrance for this, but I don't think Torrance can play center. I haven't watched too much of him yet. I'm going to, but I'm not sure. He feels like a pure guard to me.
Well, you know, just a really quick deep dive. They have currently slated, they have Cam Jurgens currently playing the right guard. But when Cam Jurgens was coming out in his draft class, they said he could slot in a center. During the combine, I saw him doing a lot of like center like skills and drills. So I think what they do is if they decide to go offensive line with a Skoronski or a Paris Johnson Jr., I think eventually when Lane Johnson decides to retire, when Jason Kelce retires, exactly, they move Cam Jurgens into the center spot, and then they can use somebody else at the guard spot, and then Skoronski or Paris Johnson would then play the tackle spot. So I can see that happening for sure. So yeah, I think it's a very likely possibility that maybe they go with the offensive tackle position here. But yeah, I think for me, if Jalen Carter's there, 100% take Jalen Carter. Yeah. Otherwise, like I think improve the secondary with the Devin Witherspoon or Christian Gonzalez, whoever's available there. I think Devin Witherspoon will go first, but that's just my opinion. So I think Christian Gonzalez would be, like I said, fantastic consolation prize if they end up with him. So really quickly, let's get to the number 30 spot or 31 based on, like I said, based on the sort of the fun that Miami sort
of Miami
first round here. So I have it slated as number 30, but I think it's officially the number 31 spot, obviously here. But it really, like I said, it really just depends on what they decide to do with that first pick at number 10 overall. So whether they go defense tackle, if they luck into Jalen Carter, then I think they could possibly go with the secondary. So it's like you look at a guy like if Deontay Banks is there at number 30, that's a great pick to upgrade your secondary. Then you go double down on defense. Maybe they add to the front seven again. So maybe they go with a pass rushing piece. So maybe they go with like a Will McDonald at Iowa State. Maybe they go with Keon White out of Georgia Tech. Felix Enudike Uzama out of Kansas State. Like, I mean, these are guys that I'm sort of seeing here slated at the number 30 spot. That would be good picks. But if they don't look into Jalen Carter, if they end up going with the secondary piece like a Christian Gonzalez or Devin Witherspoon, then I think they definitely address the defensive tackle position or the defensive edge rush for sure. So defensive tackles picks, you look at Maisie Smith out of Michigan. I don't know if he'll be there at 30, but if he is, that'd be a good pick. I think we got great value there for him at number 30. This one as well, I don't know if he'll slide to 30 based on his just massive rise as far as his draft stock. It's a guy out of Northwestern at a Tume. Adetomiwa Adebawore, I believe. Like I said,
I'm glad you took that because I wasn't trying that. That
I still got a couple weeks on that one.
That in the Kansas State edge rusher, like you got to handle those on draft night.
The Kansas State one's a little bit easier, but yeah, it's the
easy.
Adetomiwa Adebawore. I think that's how you say it. But like I said, I got a couple weeks on that one.
What world is that easy?
I'm seeing him going somewhere in like the middle of the first round. Like, I mean, like I said, his draft stock took a massive rise during this entire draft season process. So if he's there at 30, though, like that's a great speed guy that you can have come off the edge or possibly play in the middle to pair up with Jordan Davis as well. Like, I mean, he's got the height, he's got the size, he's got the speed too. Like, that's the crazy thing with this guy. So if he's there at 30, he'd be an excellent pick. Or like I said, with this guy too, like I'm seeing him going somewhere in the top 10 in some mock drafts. I'm also seeing him going way at the end of the first round as well, around the spot at number 30. And that's Kalijah Kancey, who we brought up earlier in this draft, where it's just like, he's also
what mock have you seen? What mock do you see having him in the top 10? I need to speak to that person.
I've actually been watching it at NFL Network. Cynthia Freeland of the NFL Network, she's been mocking him to Detroit at number 6. And I'm like,
come on,
a little
Cynthia.
Too high.
No, Cynthia.
Yeah.
Cynthia, what are you doing? Come on.
She's been using like her analytics model or whatever it is that like, that's her specialty or whatever. So I don't know. I don't know. Right, but just like Cynthia. The fact that it's out there, it's like there's a possibility, I guess. I really don't know. But it's just like,
I can tell
there,
you what to do with those
I
analytics.
realistically think he'll go somewhere in the middle of the first to the end of the first. So I think him being available here at number 30 is a very likely possibility. So I like him to fit in there for sure. Or like I said, they go with the passer. Some of the names I already brought up: Will McDonald, Keon White, Felix Anudike-Uzomah. Like, I mean, those would be good pieces as well if they go with corner at their first pick at number 10. But just really quickly, Tab, what are your thoughts here that they do here at number 30?
Completely agree with everything you said. No notes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
But the two quick things I want to add, this is why I'm confident a safety will come off the board, because I think they could go safety here. Brian Branch should still be available. I will entertain that thought. This is a possibility. They can use some safety help. I sneak it right in there. That's the trick right there. So Brian Branch should still be available. He's my top safety. Spoiler alert. So that, he should still be there. Wouldn't shock me if he was gone by then. JL Skinner is a guy I really love. I don't think he'll go first round. I think it's my own he's my draft crush, dude. I love him. Right. But I think it's my own bias in the way of, like, he should be in the late first round, but I don't think he will. But also wouldn't shock me. Another thing to consider, with the loss of Miles Sanders, don't be surprised that this is where the second running back goes off the board. If it's Jamar Gibbs or even Zach, how do you say it? I need to learn this.
Charbonnet. It's
Charbonnet. Okay, Charbonnet. I always want to say Charbonnet. Well, just for the comedic effects, that'd be a great name. But yeah, it would be surprising, but it would I would be like, whoa! Like, I would be like, oh, okay, interesting, because they do need to kind of shore up their running back rotation now that Sanders is gone. And this isn't a terrible spot to do it because, a friend of mine, he interned back when they were still in St. Louis. I had to throw that in there with the Rams during draft season. And he said the GM's mindset, picks 25 down, or these are just glorified second round picks. Like, they don't worry about like the value or like the PR of it, because they're just like, at the end of the day, no one really remembers if you screw up the 26 overall pick. So that's why, yes, is this a bit of a reach for the second running back? Yes, but I don't really think they'd care.
Yeah, that's a possibility. I've also been hearing a lot of things that they possibly may trade up to get Bijan Robinson. I don't think they'll do that.
I don't buy that. I've seen that as well, but I that'd be stupid.
But yeah, seeing a Jahmyr Gibbs or possibly a Zach Charbonnet going here at the very end of the first round, like, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I don't think they'll go in that direction. They did sign Rashad Penny. They do have Kenneth Gainwell still on the roster. They have Boston Scott still on the roster. So they'll be able to do their sort of running back by committee approach. I don't think they'll have a pressing need to take a running back in the first round. Maybe later in the second or third round, they could take a running back. But here in the first round, I don't know if they'll necessarily go in that direction. But yeah, if perchance Bijan Robinson slides to the end of the first, then 100%.
I'll be like, 100% go for that.
Take that pick, because he's going to be a difference maker. Screw the running back by committee approach. Just give it all to Bijan Robinson, then sort of thing. So,
especially his skill set in that offense. Woo!
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I'm a TCU fan, and I'm saying that.
Exactly. So, but yeah.
Especially because he rushed for less than 30 yards against us this year.
There you go. But yeah, if Robinson's already taken by that spot, then I don't know if they'll go running back, but we'll see obviously how it plays out. But I think they'll address the defense, possibly, if they take Jalen Carter at number 10, they'll go secondary then with that pick there. So
I agree.
that will close out our episode. We covered all 4 teams as of now. With multiple first-round picks. Obviously, we'll see what happens with the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay Packers as far as
Indianapolis coming in hot, baby.
how that will all translate as we get closer to draft day. But yeah, as we sort of mentioned at the beginning of the episode, we are very much getting closer, inching closer to the first day of the NFL draft. Make sure you're tuning in because we're going to be doing our live stream. We're going to be covering both day 1, day 2, and a fraction of day 3. We're still figuring out the process as far as how we're going to do day 3, but 100% we got you covered with rounds 1 through 3 for sure. So make sure you're tuning into our live stream. We're going to give you all the great content that we've been giving you so far, give you instant reactions. There's definitely going to be some trades that we're going to break down, give it some fantasy spin as well, because we had the AJ Brown trade last year. So, I mean, we're definitely going to be diving into how that's going to affect
Hollywood Brown too. Don't diss my boy.
For sure. So definitely we're going to address all of that for sure. So make sure you're tuning in. That'll be obviously on day 1, day 2 of the draft and portion of day 3 as well. But yeah, make sure you're just tuning into all of our great content as well that we're dropping the rest of this month as we lead up to draft day. Best way you can find out is you follow all of our social media handles that is coming across right below there. You can find us on Twitter. You can find me at Desai23. You can find Ted at TedDesai94. You got the show handle, the Desai Guys. And of course, we're on Instagram at the Desai Guys. We're continually dropping our positional rankings. So I think we just did our tight ends. You should be seeing the offensive tackles pretty soon and then interior offensive linemen pretty soon. So make sure you're tuning into our social media handles to catch all of that. Make sure you subscribe to your podcast wherever you decide to listen to your podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as LAFB Network's YouTube channel because we have our own playlist on there. Lots of great content from not just us, but from them as well, covering the Rams, the Chargers, the Bruins, as well as the Trojans. So yeah, make sure you subscribe to both YouTube channels for sure. And to guys, everybody who's already interacting with us, who's watching the videos, listening to the podcast, I mean, just anything and everything, guys. I mean, seriously, we can't thank you enough.
So we've already established on bad math, but so between the teams with no first round picks and the teams with multiple first round picks, I think we've specifically discussed 8 teams now?
5 plus 4, so 9 teams.
Damn it!
There are 5 teams with no first round picks. So we discussed 5.
Always
and
so
there's
close.
4 today. So, but yeah.
1 letter, 1 team, whatever. But if we have not discussed your favorite team yet and you want our opinions on what they are going to do in the draft, as Amir said, hit us up below. We are more than happy to discuss that. That is what I live for there. So, because I know we don't do as many mock drafts as other people do. I know we don't, we're dropping the rankings right now. But the reason we're doing that is because we want to do something different. Give you guys different types of analysis you're not going to find anywhere else. So if you want your more traditional analysis, Twitter, Instagram, that's a place to do it. Be more than happy to give it to you there. So as always, everyone, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And please, as always, stay safe.